Welcome everyone to Unity Live. So excited to be with everyone today.
Yeah, welcome. This feels like such a potent and auspicious time, as we often find ourselves saying, and every time it seems even more so. So really excited to have everyone here joining us for this celebration of self-realization and deeper union and unity within. We are really excited to celebrate this beautiful being that is here joining us, Stephen Jahn. Welcome, Stephen. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me here. I think to say that how grateful I am to be co-creating this experience with you guys. You too. It doesn't even, it falls short of the level of gratitude that I have. And yeah, so thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah.
Oh, I am so grateful and I can just feel the energy. I'm so excited for this topic of exploration. I mean, even just reading through the bullet points, I know that you're going to bring such a unique and beautiful perspective and sharing. So I'm so excited to dive in.
Yeah.
And for those maybe joining for the first time, just feel free to drop any questions or shares that you have in the chat. I know that Stephen will be planning on answering some questions and also leading us in a guided transmission.
Yay, so excited. We love guided transmissions here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if there is time to, I would also love to share a practice that I do that we can all do together, kind of making it more interactive than just hearing me talk or hearing us talk. So.
Oh, awesome. We love taking nuggets of practice with us. So yeah, absolutely.
That all sounds magical. I would love to just share a little bit about you. So Stephen Jahn is a heart alchemist, quantum healer, intuitive life path guide. He dedicates his daily practice and path of service here to assist humanity into deeper discovery and embodiment of their divine purpose through the light and consciousness of Law of One. Having experienced many lifetimes as an embodiment and teacher of Christ consciousness, Stephen holds the frequencies of immaculate Christ light, bringing it forth into his service to all beings, both in private sessions, group offerings, speaking engagements, and daily life. Through his unique service of heart alchemy, Stephen assists others in restoring and resurrecting balance and harmony in his life. In their lives, he brings both the wisdom and tools that enable others to let go of identifying with and as the mind and fully surrendering and trusting their heart wisdom. As a holder of the original Christos codes of light, he brings forth many quantum tools and techniques to assist in the healing of false feminine and masculine frequencies embedded within our carbon DNA. And Stephen has been trained and certified as an aura hypnosis healing technique practitioner, as well as a certified raw Reiki practitioner. He lives as a student and teacher of continued spiritual ascension and expansion, dedicating his life to the embodiment and service of the highest expression of awakening source within.
Woohoo!
Beautiful.
Yeah, we're so excited to dive in. So being that this is your first time joining us here on Unity, we love if there's any part of your journey of awakening or any part of your journey thus far of this lifetime that you feel is wants to be shared and brought forth, so that everybody can kind of get a deeper dive into who you are and you know, and where you've been. And
Yeah, thank you so much. That was quite the experience to have that back to you and to feel that. So thank you again. Yeah, so right away, given the nature of the topic of this co-creation, or a layer, if you will, right? There are aspects of my journey that I felt called to share. And as I go into it, everyone will see why. So just like everyone else, I've had a pretty long experience in the sleep state, which was deeply rooted in false masculine programs. And I was brought up with religious programming as well. And no judgment to anyone who finds resonance with religion. That's just my experience. It just wasn't in resonance. And so prior to waking up, as I mentioned, the false masculine programs were very, very woven into everything that I would do. And it's interesting too, because before I give a few examples of what that looked like in my reality, you can just chalk up false feminine and false masculine programs as basically warring frequencies and separation of frequencies. So whether it was like, just having my ego being at the commander of my light ship and just trying to it's so funny trying to express my experience. There is very much of a suppression of the emotions and the divine feminine side. And growing up, my dad was in the military. I was really into sports. I was really into, and again, there's no judgment to any of these things. This is just something that I've experienced. I really loved guns. I really loved, even though I've never been, I loved hunting. And so being in that environment, it was very much of like, man up, I'm trying to refrain from some of the wordings that was used, but basically it was like, suppressing the emotions and not honoring things that come up, and over efforting at everything that I was doing rather than just being. And so you can imagine the level of resistance that was met along the path. So that's what it was like for me before waking up. And certainly there was aspects of my heart at play. It wasn't just purely false masculine energies, but I was just highlighting that because of the nature of this talk. And then I had this experience of my awakening where I was actually I was drinking a beer and playing a video game, and next thing you know, I had this something, well, in that moment, right, it was something that I had no idea, just came over me. I wanted to take off the headphones. I turned around, and this is before I got into meditation and yoga and even knowing anything about spirituality. And I went into a meditative state, and for the first time ever, I was perceiving something non-physical, and I was seeing this portal. That's the best way I could describe it, in my third eye. And I remember it felt like I was in there for so long, and I was sweating profusely, and I came out of that experience, and basically everything shifted for me. The lifestyle of false masculine and programs and things that I was participating in that was no longer serving me, literally for me switched over in one day. And we're all unique, and we all experience like when we are ready to let go of things. So as I was embarking on like, okay, so now I know I want to be of service. I know like none of this thing resonates with me. What do I want to do? And I was just feeling into it. And I noticed a trend, like as I kind of alluded to, that my dad was military. I guess I didn't mention this part, but I thought that the military career was what I was going to do. So basically there was a trend of like in the military, I was going to be a medic. And when I would play video games, I was the healer. And so then it just dawned on me that like, being able to help heal people, as we know, like, and I saw the trends of that. So that led me into the aura hypnosis and the raw Reiki, and continuing to just step further within, and ultimately just trying to embody the best version of myself to be in the greatest service to all, seen and unseen. So it's definitely been, like all of us, right? We experience the opposite of the light, our I am presence, to kind of get us prepared for however our journey is going to manifest for us. And yeah, so I think that's a good nutshell.
Yeah, that sounds like, well, first I would like to just point out there's such a tremendous amount of white light, like literally emanating all around you, and like out. Yeah, I couldn't help but make note of that and share that. But it sounds like, and as you're taking us into the journey of it, right? It's, you know, there's such a relatability for each and every one of us, different and unique, but, you know, just really playing into and surfing, you know, the programs of the separation matrix, right? And it's abundance of all types of programs, and certainly, as we know, lots of false masculine, lots of false feminine programs, and to have such a huge, like, you know, we all have our own unique sort of surrender point or wake up point, or, you know, like when the divine alarm clock, the snooze button breaks, and it's like, oh, okay, it's really happening this time. But that sounds intense. Like, that sounds like, you know, that's, you know, you kind of see that kind of thing in the movies, but, you know, to actually have had that experience where it was like 1 minute fully engaging in the depths of, you know, of sleep state, and, you know, and zoning out, and and then literally the next minute, you know, awakening to a huge system of, you know, the mainframe of your highest self and oversoul dropping in to say, oh, we're taking a new direction with this. So I think what would be really beautiful to have greater awareness of is like how, like, making that huge change, because I, you know, you've shared with me before how, like, instantaneously, like, you know, you no longer were participating in certain foods, and, you know, and it was like, it's not to say that you even really had any sort of background knowledge or awareness or participation of this. It literally was like you went from one extreme to the other. So how were you able to navigate through that with, like, your family members and everybody who had absolutely no concept of what just happened, right? Like, what was their relationship to it?
Yeah, I love that question. And as you were sharing that, something that I feel guided to share too, before I answer that question, is my experience and coming to that moment actually came at like a rock bottom experience, because I was married, and going into the sleep state in a very toxic and unhealthy relationship. Ended up getting divorced, and basically everything that you can think about in one's life, where it was like, you know, I thought I was going to be in the military, and that didn't work out. I was married, and, you know, you're supposed to hold the framework of, like, you don't get divorced, and you have to keep the family, all these things, all these programs. And just giving a nutshell, like, everything shattered. And so being at such a low spot, I think it was the only, had this, as the saying goes, right, the only way forward now is up, or I can't remember the expression.
We get what you're throwing down.
Okay. And so, yeah, that was so that was a catalyst, I think, which caused all of this awakening. And then, so for my family, that's one thing that I feel really grateful for. So actually, upon waking up, it was pretty disorienting for me. There was such a level of like, on my journey, there was such a level of disassociation, or bypassing of the physical side of my reality, that when I experienced my I am presence and that life is more than what I was living. It was like I was almost ready to jump ship of like everything in the physical world and just be with the I am presence. I know that doesn't do it justice what I'm trying to share, but so I share that just because in the act of me waking up and me telling my family, like, I'm no longer drinking, I'm no longer eating meat. Even I told my brother, like, I'm no longer participating in these killing type of games because I know that this is affecting my reality, what I'm participating in. And they're met with a little bit of like confusion and like, I think very little of, like, come on, you can just have one more burger. Like it's like the saying goodbye. Like this is like a ceremony of letting it all go. And um, but after they saw that I was just really set in my path, and I lovingly told them like, no, thank you. Like it's just I can't. I literally have no words to describe this to you, but it doesn't feel right for me. They let that go, and then just more to their perspective, weirdness, things happen. Like I told them, hey guys, I don't know why, but I just want to tell you, like, I'm not talking for 10 days straight. And they looked at me like, what? Like, what's going on with this guy? And so my family got accustomed to me doing weird things, like practicing qigong in the front yard. And they're like, what are you doing? Like, neighbor's gonna see you. And I was like, it's okay, I'm just practicing. Um, so in navigating that, it was fairly easy. And though they didn't, um, I'll say now that they also are transitioning what they're eating, but though that they didn't really like want to find out more as to what I was doing, they honored my journey, and they were no longer like questioning it or trying to get me to come back into eating with them. And they're rolling with the figurative, I'll just say love instead of punches.
Yeah, beautiful. So it's like, this not so soft and subtle,
Yeah.
entry into, okay, I guess it's time to wake up. And then it's beautiful because a lot of times, I know I speak of my own journey, and maybe you can relate to this a little bit too. It's, those in our lives that are really kind of on a completely different trajectory and have different blueprints here, and have a deep sense of comfortability and sort of staying power, if you will, in the matrix and in some of the things that we might perceive in our path of awakening as part of the illusion. Sometimes that can create a lot of divide and resistance or judgment, which makes our own journey, that much more masterful, because we have to navigate, we don't have to do anything, but we often find ourselves still, immersed in those networks of community, connection, and family. And, and ultimately it adds to our greater mastery and opportunity to navigate, letting go of taking things personally and really, honoring our own inner calling and stuff. But it can be really challenging and not so fun at times. So at least you set it up in your blueprint ahead of time to say, okay, I will do this. However, I'm going to have my family kind of back me up on this.
Yeah.
Good job, highest self.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I know we want to dive into even more so a lot of what's coming into your heart and blossoming and expressing, to greater and greater depths within your path of service and within your own experience of life. And so, one of the questions that I think we're all awaiting to feel your sort of vibrational expression and bandwidth is, how does balancing the divine masculine and feminine relate to our journey of ascension or ascension and greater freedom?
Yeah, I love that question. And as always, for everyone who is participating in this co-creation, take what resonates and throw the rest out. It's so interesting because this system, like all systems, right? It's so massive. Everything is so infinite. And even as I was sitting down before, so much was wanting to come through. So just know, keep in your heart that the aspect that I touch on is one of infinite aspects. And I really couldn't even articulate and do this whole system justice as to exactly how this could benefit an individual. So my felt sense, or my experience, and what has come through so far, when the divine masculine and the feminine are harmonized and present in our moment to moment experiences, there's so many ways that I can go with this. So let me just go into this real quick. So one layer that I would like to touch on is, first of all, there's going to be immense grace and ease. When you go from navigating reality, there have been, and there is until there's not, right, moments of like not knowing which way to go, not knowing what to do, and sometimes resulting in efforting at the next choice, and sometimes the programs of like doubt or uncertainty flows in. And so when these two are balanced and present in one's journey of navigating reality, there is no room for self-limiting programs to be present, because the way I see it is that when we talk about, as it's known, right, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, they have the different hemispheres associated with each quality. And I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but it's all perfect. I see it as like there's a harmonization with the hemispheres. So there's no longer the categorization of the left and right hemisphere. And it really, and when you talk about the unconscious and the conscious, it's not that that's no longer there too, but that also is not the main operating system. It's like the main operating system is the super conscious, which is it activates the omnipresence, the omniscient, the omni-knowing, all of these things. So going back to what I was sharing, or when we have moments of like not having clarity on which way to go, or over efforting at the direction, the actions, it's just complete beingness with everything. And that doesn't mean that there's no action being taken. It just means that every action that you're taking is taken with such a conscious an awareness and knowing that this is in alignment with your highest and best, that those programs are not there. So once again, going back to that, there being so much grace and ease with in every aspect of your life. And I'll stop there because I can continue on, but I think I'm going to start talking on something that might be brought up a little bit later.
That brings up just so many layers and levels to explore. And something that just really struck me, in hearing your story is just like how masterfully like I got the image of a hula hoop for some reason, but just like shedding those programs, and especially with masculine and feminine programming, and we're exploring these false energies and frequencies. Like the programming is really deep, it's really embedded, and you brought up so many different programs and systems, in your own personal experience. But I'd love if you could maybe unpack and explore how, maybe some additional programs and how those show up as false masculine and feminine energies.
Yes, I love that question. So as I mentioned in the beginning of this talk, you can underline both of these as anything warring frequencies, right? So some examples of false feminine energies, and I would actually love to hear both of your experiences of this, since you guys, not that you categorize as masculine being only for males and feminine, but the competition frequencies with one another. And for some reason, I can remember the sleep state, and I remember like when more than one woman was in a room, I saw like a woman would not, first of all, go into judgment and like be looking out like at what she was wearing, but it was like there's almost like this, the woman would do everything she could to say something to belittle the other woman because she had to be better than her, or she had to yeah, there's many layers, but you guys get the point of that. And so before I go to the divine masculine, I would love to hear has there been experiences and what that has
Oh
been?
yeah. Like immediate flashback as you
totally
that.
like so many, right? And actually I remember it was like 2 or 3 years ago, I was on an airplane. I was reading a book, one of the books that I had found really to be a catalyst of awakening and awareness on my journey, and that I had read pretty early on, and then was guided for, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was excited because I hadn't really been guided to read much at that point or really dive externally. It was more at that point, there was like a big transition of coming more into just full trusting in myself as source and my, self as a conduit of source, right? So when I got the drop in, like bring this particular book on the airplane, I was like, yeah, like what, what's going to reveal itself, knowing at that point in time that like every time we go back to a book or a transmission or, or something, a video, we meet it where we are consciously, and it's going to be a whole different experience than when we last, participated in it. So the book is Tom Kenyon's book. I'm so awesome at names. Let me see if I can pull it. I believe it's, I'll have to come back to that. It will come to me. But anyways, it's an amazing book. So I was like, okay, I've read this book many times early on, right? It'd probably been like 4 or so 5 years since I last read it. So I decided to use it like how we would do an oracle deck or something. And I was like fanning through it, like what wants to show up, right? And so I opened to this particular page, and albeit I don't remember, yes, thank you, Cecilia Rhodes, you amazing being, the great human potential. Thank you. Love that. And so I don't remember the exact content that I dove into, but what it brought forth is an immediate connection and awareness to the false feminine frequencies, and all of a sudden it came flooding in all these different layers of awareness of it, like the competition and like woman against woman, and and how it was constructed in the quantum fabric, and how it was constructed to further separate women from connecting their hearts and connecting in community. Because when anyone connects in that way, it's powerful. But when women connect in deep sisterhood and deep divine union, and that was another thing that more recently, and we can come back to that, came in, is that divine union is not just how we perceive it as twin flames, and this divine union can be experienced in relationships with all people, whether friends, whether romantic partnership. And I was like, oh, it's like constant, okay, like greater and greater embodiment. But to come back to that place, all of these things started to reveal themselves, and I was like, holy cow. And then compassion to myself for having dove into so many of them, like so many self-punishing frequencies of like eating disorders and all these types of things when I was growing up, and saw the direct relationship to that, and how on the playground, and the mean words that had been exchanged and stuff, but which were part of this woman against women programming that are imprinted in us, you know, on a collective level, but then society and like even the way that the, you know, that things are structured, where girls do this and boys do that, you know, all of it, right? This giant network of like comparison and competition and separation, and it was overwhelming but also exciting. And then so it was like blah, 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 all this stuff is flooding in, and then I heard just come back to center. And so I was like, okay, and you know, okay, I thought I was there, but here I go. So I'm in my heart space, and then I'm on the airplane, and then all of a sudden it's like one of those movies where, and I don't know which one it is, but I think there was a Jim Carrey movie where all of a sudden he could hear what everybody else was saying, like he was posing as God or something, and he could hear. So all of a sudden on the airplane, I had this like hyper telepathy, we'll say, of these different pockets of women who were, you know, and these dynamics of that were taking place around me. And they were being highlighted to how, like, you know, and but from a place of like immaculate compassion, where it was like I like had inner tears because I could see what was taking place and what was happening with, like, you know, with all the different layers of the masks that were being worn, and you know, and I was just like, wow, like all sorts of things kind of came in that moment, because there was a sense of gratitude for you know, for showing up and doing the deep work to releasing all of those suffering programs and all of the levels and layers of my participation in it, which was, I mean, I was really like a pro at like diving into, you know, really putting myself down and like comparing, you know, not comparing myself in the way of necessarily looking at another woman and, you know, as exists. And I've been on the receiving end, where people look at you and they find you attractive. So then they immediately start, you know, acting like they'll be mean to you, or they'll shut down to you, or you can hear, you know, if you're telepathic, you can hear all their inner communication, which, you know, we take personally until we don't, right? So that was thankfully not a part of this experience, although I'm sure I experienced it in other lifetimes. But what I would experience of it is like feeling that energy and then judging myself, and then playing small, and then keeping myself small, and then, you know, blah, 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 right? So it's like, there's so many ways in which this impacts us and keeps us in a place of separation, and keeps us in a place of, you know, of that false feminine and the false masculine, and then how that plays off, and then how men play into it. And the false masculine have all these programs that are set up, right, that play into that and keep the female, and then the females the same. And like, so it's like an overwhelmingly potent and intricately woven system of separation. So when people like you show up in this world and are highlighting different paths of service and ways in which to further assist individuals and groups to untangle this, disentangle and transmute and come into greater wholeness, it's exciting, because it really is such a huge foundation of the illusion of separation and the human suffering that we have here. Yeah.
It is. It goes so deep, and I can feel my own experiences, and I feel like I can feel everybody here who's you know, participating in this, you know, container, to really tap into their own memories of how that relates to their own, you know, human journey and experience. And yeah, I mean, I definitely have memories of, like, you know, running for student council when I was, and having like a group of girls like write a petition not to vote for me, and just, you know, feeling like that was so hurtful. But that competition energy, right? Of like, you know, there's, yes, finite where it's really infinite. And I love how you bring up the energy of divine union, and feeling that in sisterhood, and feeling that in brotherhood, because I feel like that's the energy that we're returning to. And we see this, you know, I have memories of like sitting in circle and community, and just deep love and reverence. And yeah, this is really bringing us to that place.
I love it. And what I will say is some of the greatest freedom and joy and inner homecoming has come from getting to a place of instantaneously witnessing where a judgment program or something wants to come in, and shifting it to, I choose celebration and igniting of everybody's light and everybody's divine perfection, right? So, you know, really, like when I see a beautiful woman, or I see a beautiful man, or I see someone doing something that I admire, like, you know, being in this place of deep, you know, honoring and celebration and excitement, and, you know, and really recognizing where on the periphery of that experience, through the mind hive that exists here, what still exists in a system of desired penetration, to say, oh, but where, you know, because it's, the thing is, it is a part of us and our cellular imprint until it's not. But then it doesn't necessarily go away in our transmutation and transformation of it within the peripheral experience of our own hologram. It's still being webbed through 5G and all these different, so it's still always there as the system of duality mirrors itself in, you know, in our every present moment, to reflect on, you know, I have a choice and I choose the light. I have a choice and I choose, you know, unity. I have a choice and I choose the celebration of the divine and immaculate perfection of every being that's here. You know, and the more we bring ourselves into that place of remembering that it's always a choice, and feeling into that everybody, you know, benefits in a way of greater unification and celebration and divine union when we do choose that. I, you know, really put a lot of emphasis on that in my own journey of healing. And I will say it brings forth the greatest wellspring of like of a joy and a gratitude and a peace that I don't necessarily know that I recognize or have been met in other ways of my journey of participation here. It's like such a deep, because that's how much it wants to come back online. Like that's how much it is the core essence of who we are, I feel.
Yeah, that's powerful. I feel like this word of trust, like really trusting in, you know, those connections and being able to, yeah, just celebrate the divine perfection of another being. Like I am so curious, because we shared from, you know, a female perspective. I'd love to hear, Stephen, from your perspective, like what you've witnessed.
Yeah, so there's so many things you guys brought up that I was like, yes, I can. But one thing that I wanted to highlight as well is, because I just realized we're talking a lot about the roaring frequencies, but how about I think a better description of the false masculine and feminine energies would be is anything not of your core essence. And what I mean by that is because how about the frequencies of playing it small, or not being able to set your boundaries, or to not be able to speak your truth? Some of these are also the things that I was realizing, or what was coming to the forefront when you guys were talking. And for the false masculine, it's like, well, we already know about the suppression, like not honoring the emotions that come up. And when you talk about how humanity has been, the divine feminine has been so suppressed, and the false masculine has been at the main operating system. Yeah, it's like, not only are you suppressing emotions, but there's also this, I can only describe it as like over efforting, right? Like the way that I can describe it is like, well, over efforting is pretty self-explanatory, but like if you are not stopping to honor your body, right? Like the false masculine is like, no, we got to keep going. It kind of brings in that serious energies. Like, no, I was a workaholic, big time. And all it was is like, you know, you got to, the programs of like, you got to work for what you want in this life. And there's nothing wrong with having a busy schedule, but I think the energy that you have going into it is like, no, I need to go, and not honoring your physical body, or not honoring your time that you could be spending with your loved ones or with yourself, right? Because everything is all about like spending your energy outside of yourself. These are some of the things from my perspective that was coming up for both of the divine feminine and the divine, sorry, not the divine, the false feminine, the false masculine energies.
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up, and also that it's non-gender specific, right? Because
Yeah,
certainly
yeah.
we know that the programs that come up that could be categorized or described as false feminine
Hmm.
and false masculine are interwoven, right? I mean,
Yeah.
some of those same things are that was shared of my experience and so forth, are woven into the fabric of both men and women, right? And I know certainly as you're sharing your experience with this, I can completely relate to it. I completely, and I know your experience too, right? It was like to be and the relationship to it different as a woman versus a man because of all the different stereotypes and all this stuff that's present here. But yet, that, as a woman, it was like, if I'm going to be, validated as being, worthy and being worthy of being, and sort of an equal participant in society and in the communities I am in, I have got to work really hard, so it was like, I got to work harder. I got to work harder. I got to work harder so that, that I can be taken seriously. I mean, how funny, right? When you start to wake up, what was so good about that being taken seriously thing? I'm sorry. Like, what was so great about that? It wasn't fun. And, well, look where it got me, right? With like adrenal fatigue, overachiever syndrome, fear of failure syndrome, like, it was perfect. What I would say is it got me to a perfect place of deep, deep cellular surrender, which I am eternally grateful for as a result, then catalyzing this path. But while in the thralls of it, everyone suffers, or, to some degree that is held within, the collective field. Because, and certainly when we kind of zoom out, is everybody, within the collective consciousness of humanity. When we zoom in, my children, my partner, my family members, because, here I am in this complete illusionary state of like, I'm running from the bear. I'm running from the bear. Like, I got to do, I've got to prove myself. I've got to excel. I've got to, do better, blah, 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 right? And then it's like, you're not present. You're not in your heart. And you're fully achieving like all of these, different frequencies of competition and comparison and, success found through, through praise and external and monetary gain and, all these types of things, right? It's like, I mean, when you were sharing at the beginning, and I could feel like you dropping into your field, like, how do, the question in and of itself is like, we could spend, hours and hours, days and weeks, because it's like, the overflowing chalice of programs that are woven in this way.
Absolutely. And I love how we're getting into how the programs are really overlapping. I think one of the things that I would love to explore more is really this idea of really opening the heart and allowing the ability to feel and express emotions. And I feel like this isn't just, something that there is a lot of programming for men to not cry or to not express emotions, but, we see this across the board, really, with, not being able to feel if you're in that state of go, 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 focusing on the external. So what would you share in that?
Yeah, I love that. That's such a huge thing. I can speak from my perspective and my experience of my reality. And it seems like the tendency, because we all experience false masculine and feminine energies until we don't, regardless of your gender, has been stated. But I've noticed that the men, for whatever reason, it's like there's very little heart, if at all. And I find it that the women are more easier to be in the heart centers. And as we know, like, the heart center is the key for everything. And it's not to belittle maybe I'm just associating this because there's a talk about like leaving the mind to the heart. It's not to belittle the mind and what it can do, but it's not comparing to the vastness of the potentials of what can come from the heart. And to me, this is the key to this, to shifting. The heart center, it's like, yeah, I'm just remembering all the times in my journey that I was just, when you talk about being compassion to others, compassionate for others, and empathizing with someone when you're talking to them, and that heart center is not at the forefront, or you're not there when with whatever you're doing, it's like I couldn't even describe it, but you could just feel it. And I would, at the time, I would just say like, this person is not charismatic, but I realize now it's like, even if you are running these systems, it just seems like there's something down, or at least from my experience, it's like there's something down inside that when someone is in their heart center and they're able to be fully expressing and communicating, you can feel that, and it allows for you to do the same. It offers the opportunity for you to do the same, right? We all choose what we how we choose to navigate our reality. And so I think, it's such a beautiful thing to just bring such awareness to the heart center. And to me, like, when you talk about the benefits of, going back to like a previous question, what are the benefits of navigating life with the divine masculine and feminine harmonized? I believe that it's like everything is coming from the heart center. Everything you're operating out of is from there. And it's like, I know I'm touching back on something we just barely shifted from, but it's going to tie in. Is, another false masculine programming is domination, and kind of like this unhealthy hierarchical system. So it's like when you get into that and you get into these programs of like, I am the teacher, you're the student, and they all had their purposes, right? So I'm not diminishing these experiences, but where I am the boss and you guys are underneath me, right? It's creating that separation. But like, the more you come into your heart center, the more that you are operating from a balanced divine masculine and feminine. Like, I think it's like a Zen saying, but like, there is no student, there is no teacher, there is no. And I think this is also where we're shifting to as we are resurrecting the harmonization of the divine masculine and divine feminine, and being in the heart centers. That kind of a system goes away, and it's just like, it really comes back to like unity consciousness, and just honoring what unique expression that individual is choosing to be emanating in that moment, and vice versa. And there's just so much more harmony, grace, and ease, and coming back to our core essence. So I know I kind of went a little around, but that's kind of what came to the forefront to answer the question.
Yeah, there's a palpable felt sense to it, and it's beautiful, and what has become abundantly clear in many different ways and channels of expression is that the heart center is the central point to our emotional body, right? So I feel like, and what I was hearing and feeling in your sharing too, is that once we drop in, once we learn the pathways, and which are infinite in nature, but we find our pathways that lead us back into the greatest place of uncomfortability sometimes, until we reach the place of comfortability, right? And we come back into that place of fully accepting, that we are these sentient beings, and that we are, part of our, the beauty of our architecture here is to not only is not only to think and to have that mental expression, but is to feel our way, through the experiences of exchange in life. When we come into, into that softness and into the embrace of that, and we get comfortable with the uncomfortable, which is, what perhaps we were previously doing, which is suppressing that, that emotional center, right? Suppressing the communication of that, which leads to stagnation and disease, discordance, right? We know it all, right? So when we come in there and we start peeling away the layers and peeling away the layers and getting comfortable with the uncomfortable and acknowledging that, and we come into that place of suppleness and of, kind of bringing more and more and more of the divine union within, I feel like it leads us to that point that you're expressing and that you're experiencing, which is, things just flow. Like I know that we've all had this experience, and probably together, right? It's like we could be having a conversation, and because we're so willing to be in our heart centers and open to the communication that's present, we may be having a conversation about something, joyful, and it brings forth an invitation, and tears are coming through, and or something, comes up, like maybe a little bit of frustration or a grief, and and instead of resisting it, we remain in that space, and and we kind of just allow it to come through and drop in its message, and and be present with it, and and sort of, so the heart being like this open and massive portal, right, of exchange and of receiving and releasing. And I feel like for me, there's such a direct relationship with that expression of presence and exchange and receptibility and acceptability of that being desiring to come back as like the main frame of our communication. There's such an expression of divine union that beacons out in that, I feel like.
Yeah, and we can feel it, it's so beautiful. You shared, Stephen, that, when somebody is fully in their heart space, it gives others permission to do the same. And, we can feel it, the energy on this call. I just feel everybody in their hearts open, just a sense of authenticity and being able to, share freely. I mean, the heart has such a powerful field of energy. It's so much stronger than the mind, It's like one sense that sometimes people get over reliant upon, and it's the heart is where so much magic is, like to your sharing, really being the center point of our emotional body, which makes so much sense. I know, Stephen, you mentioned in the beginning that you might be willing to lead us in a process. I'm just curious if that somehow relates to the heart in some way.
Yeah, it does. Lots of yodeling. You guys are ready for it?
Awesome.
Yeah, so should we shift into that?
Well, is that a part of the transmission that you'll?
No, this is a practice that I wanted to share with everyone that I've experienced on my journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, before I get to the practice, I just want to share it is a yogic technique. And the reason why I'm prefacing that is because for those of you who hear that and you're like, oh, like, I don't want to like be doing something physical or strenuous. I think oftentimes when people think about yoga, they think about twisting and bending and holding these awkward positions. But yoga has been a profound catalyst in my journey of coming within, balancing my masculine and feminine energies, and perceiving beyond the five senses and so forth, along with other things. So I just wanted to share that, in a way, our life is, trying to give this the short version. The manifestation of our life has our energies. Well, right, everything's energy. We're creating it, and yoga, for me, has been a way of enhancing the energies, and so that the way that you're navigating life is no longer unconscious, but becoming more conscious. And there are many expressions of yoga. It's not just the physical nature, right? There's breath, there's chanting, So the ones that I'm going to share with you today are, I picked the easiest and simplest that we can do regardless of your physical, what you can do physically. And you can do this with as a little or as much time as you need. So there's two parts to it, and there's actually like a whole series of this, like I said, but for many reasons, I'm not going to share all of it. The first part is a breath, and what I'll do is I'm going to show you and share it, and then after you guys have watched, we can get into it, and we'll do like 3 rounds, just quickly, not quickly, but and then I'll share the second part, and we'll do that. But ultimately, it's both of the practices together. So first, I'll share that we see the yoga positions as like, I'm using my arms as my legs, but the legs are crossed and the feet are up on the legs, on the thighs. The way that it was taught for me is that ideally, if you can be outside when doing this, this would be the best. And when you're sitting, your legs are unfolded and they are inside one another. This way that you have the most surface of you touching the earth, and there's not anything to do with like blocking circulation. I'm sure after a certain amount of mastery, that's not a big deal. So that's just a recommendation, but I'm sitting on a chair. And so for those of you who are sitting on a chair, laying down, the recommendation for this is to be sitting with no support on the spine and having it erect. Okay, so the left hand is slightly cupped on the lap, and then the right hand is going to be these 3 fingers together, and it's important to keep them together. And you're going to be rotating from the pinky to the thumb. The thumb is on the right nostril, and the pinky is on the left nostril. And you want to have your hand vertical like this, so it's not touching your face. And you're just going to be maneuvering the pinky to the thumb. And the breath, I know it sounds like a lot, but it's going to be easier when we get into this. The breath it starts with the exhale of the left nostril, and it ends with the exhale of the left nostril. So I'm going to show you with my hand, my breath cycle, so you know what I'm talking about. So you breathe in through the left nostril, and you breathe out through the left nostril. And even though I said you start with the exhaling of the left nostril, we started with the inhale. It sounds kind of confusing, but that's when you breathe in one more time, and that's when you put the left pinky to the left nostril, and exhale out the right nostril. You inhale with the right nostril, and you exhale through the left nostril. So you can imagine the breath doing kind of an infinity symbol. So inhale through the left nostril, exhale through the right nostril, inhale through the right nostril, exhale through the left nostril. And like this, the breath you will implement the breath. And what I was saying, when you start with the exhale and end with the exhale, regardless of whenever the timer is stopped, or if I say, okay, let's come to a stop, if you're on the right nostril, don't just stop. You want to continue the process until you have exhaled out of the left nostril, and then you'll stop. And don't worry if you're not getting this right away. Just as I'm explaining this, I realize it's a little bit more technical than I initially thought. So if you guys are willing to, we'll do 3 cycles of going through both nose, and I will guide us through which nostril, and don't get caught up in like, was it left or right? And with my hands moving, you guys can come back to the recording and we can get it straightened out. So left hand on the lap, just cupped. You can sitting with your spine straight and there's no support behind the spine, so allowing the spine to be free. And then placing, you're going to start off with your right thumb on your right nostril, left pinky out. You're going to breathe in through the left nostril. And you're going to breathe out through the left nostril. That signifies the beginning. You're going to breathe in one more time. Now the pinky on the left nostril, breathing out of the right nostril. Breathing in through the right nostril. Putting the right thumb on the right nostril, breathing out through the left nostril. Breathing in through the left nose again. Placing the pinky on the nose, releasing the thumb, breathing out through the right side. Breathing in through the right side. Placing the right thumb on the right nose, breathing out through the left side. Breathing in through the left nose. Placing the pinky on the left nose, breathing out through the right nose. Breathing in through the right nose. Placing the thumb on the right nose, moving the pinky and breathing out of the left nose, and we're ending it right there. And something I didn't mention, but is that what the goal is to, when the breath is coming out of the nose, if you had a feather underneath the nose, you try your best to not have the breath disrupt the feather, so it's really light breaths coming in and out. So that's the first part, and then the second part is so much easier. This is actually a chant. And so I don't know if you guys want to mute your mic just for this quick demonstration, but it's a chant. It's A-U-M, And when you say the A part, you should feel something in your stomach. When you say the oo part, you'll feel it in your chest. And when you say the part, you'll feel it in your nose to your third eye. And the goal is to have the same length spent on the ah part to the oo part and the part. You're going to have both of your hands facing up on your lap, and as a demonstration, it will be like this. Ah. That's it. If you feel more comfortable to have the mudra like this, that's totally fine as well. So if we're all going to do this together. So when you're ready, just to close your eyes. Taking a nice breath, and I'll do it 2 more times. One more. And last note, if you didn't feel it on the areas that I described, it's either, I can hear me in the background of my, I don't know. Either you need to make more of a noise, so you're saying it too quiet, or just you need more practice of bringing your consciousness within. Yeah, so that's the practices. And traditionally, you would do them both together. So the breath and then the oming, and then you would just sit. And I feel my heart, and I feel just absolute presence, and yeah, the balance of everything.
Yeah, so beautiful. Emily and I were harmonizing together.
It was really,
Yeah, I was like, oh, we have to do this more often.
I know, I'm like, we've done this before.
Yeah, it was really igniting. And you can feel the balance. You can feel sort of like, yeah, it's hard to describe in words, but there's just like a sweetness to it. And yeah, and a lot of white light is what I would say was my
Very
experience.
peaceful.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for that. I love having sprinkling of new practices and coming through. Yeah, so are we having some questions come forth?
I know that they're, yes, profoundly peaceful.
I will share that even though that is a physical practice that I have implemented, obviously, when you incorporate, speaking your truth and being in your heart center and being able to set your boundaries and all of these things that are suppressed with the false energies, these are all ways in which that one can harmonize and balance their masculine and feminine qualities, and eventually gets to a point where there's no more efforting. You're in a state of being, absolute presence.
I love it. I love how you intertwine, physical practice and breath and intention and presence and, transparency, and really, we both have the pleasure and honor of knowing you and having spent time together in collaboration and connection, and, and something that I know of my experience in your presence is that, with such an open heart center, so free of judgment, so in the presence of witnessing the perfection in others, that creates such a soft and safe place for greater vulnerability, and also in that, greater clarity and awareness of what is bubbling up to the surface to be, expressed and explored and further unraveled and disentangled. Which then leads me into, I know we have a couple of questions here, but I feel it's a soft sort of entry into, I hear there's a course coming up, and so would you be willing to share with everybody, like if they were feeling a sense of desire to connect with you, do you do one-on-ones? And can you tell us a little bit about the course or gathering that you're preparing and to put out here shortly, and when it takes place and that kind of thing?
Yeah, thank you so much for allowing me to share that. Yeah, I do one-on-one sessions, and I believe that there will be a link to my website on the recording of this, but you can find out everything in detail on my website. And the course that I have coming out on April 5th, it's going to be for 6 weeks. It's about rebirthing the divine union within. And it's going to be, identifying the false masculine and feminine energies, identifying what the divine masculine and divine feminine energies are, offering more practical practices, creating obviously a space of community, heartfelt community. As we know, that's amazing to have going through a transition of this. And I think there's also going to be touching on, there's an aspect of what we know as the divine masculine and divine feminine, and more is coming to the light as a system that is part of it, and which I'm just calling the divine union, because once the divine masculine and divine feminine are harmonized, you access the Trinity, or the third part of it, which is, I'm calling it the divine union. And so I share this perspective in it as well. And we explore everything with that. And it's also a place where the way that it's laid out is, it's not just me sharing with you all my perspective on the matter. It opens up for everyone to be sharing not only what's on the forefront, but if, you know, if it's a co-creation and its nature. If people are having downloads and guidances and relevance to the topic, then they get a chance to share their perspective. And yeah, it's a deep exploration of this, and the calling to expand their perspective if one wishes to on this subject. And yeah, it's a 6 weeks. Yeah, so I think I covered everything about that. And my website is awakeningsourcewithin.com.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We will definitely share the link for that when we send out the replay. When does the course start?
So it starts April 5th. And it's funny because I cannot recall at this time. Well, I actually feel like it's 3 p.m. EST is the time frame. But don't quote me on that.
Perfect. Well, I'm excited for all who feel guided and in resonance to participate, as I know how powerful and potent and connecting it will be. So yeah, thank you. Do we have any questions or anything, or do we feel guided to go into this transmission?
Yeah, let's go into the transmission.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Perfect. Well, let me get a drink of water really quickly. All right. So everyone, if you feel called to close your eyes. And before I get into describing the breath that's being recommended, as always, implement whatever you feel comfortable, but there is a strong suggestion for this breath. It's inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. It's a nice, deep, slow, rhythmic inhale and exhale. And when we know that the intention and breath and presence equals profound miracles, really understanding that in this case, the breath is the vehicle. So the deeper we can be with the breath, the more consistent we are with the deepness of the breath, the more you can get out of an experience. And so there will be a point in time where I will, suggest that we go back to our normal breaths. And so on the inhale, right, you're really expanding the belly, and then the lower chest, and then the upper chest, and doing it in a way where you're touching the backs, the fronts, the sides. And on the exhale, it's encouraged to really release. And like this, continuing the process, like stated before, of nice, deep, long inhales and exhales. So starting this nice, deep inhales. And exhales. As in each inhale, we are balancing and harmonizing the divine masculine and feminine energies. And on the exhale, we are releasing all the false masculine and false feminine programs. Breathing in. Breathing out. And dropping down into our heart centers. as a general intention is set for the harmonizing and balancing of the divine masculine and releasing of the false masculine and false feminine. We're also calling for the clearest wisdom, the highest healings, and the highest and best for everyone's good in this now moment, according to the divine love, light, law, and order, and oneness. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey yo. Hey ya, hey. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey yo. Hey ya, hey ya, ho. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey yo, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho, ha, he, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey, ho. Breathing nice and deep, rhythmically. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey oh, way. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, oh, breathing in nice and deep, exhaling. Hey ya, 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 hey ya, ho, ha, hey ya. Hey, ha, hey ya, oh, ha ya hey ya ho ha ya hey ya hey ya hey ya ha ya ha ya ho ya ho ya hey ya hey ya ha ya ne ho ha ya iya ya ha no ha ya iya yo wa iya ya ho na iya no ha kita nakara uta ya isa na no toni kai na ura iya iya ho hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey yo. Hey ya, hey ya, ho, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho. Allowing the breath to be your vehicle of releasing all that no longer serves and balancing and harmonizing, integrating all that's in alignment with your highest and best interest in this now moment, dropping you even further into the heart center. We are one. Inna iya kamo iya yes ama we inna kaga iya waya. Tama is na yorana yama iya wa inna aku iya ma iya che iya wa iya katala na kato inna me ai we inna ma haya we namata iya rona inna haya eso. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ho. 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 Returning back now to your normal breath. Receiving and knowing that you are whole, you are complete, that the intention was set, that everything that you need is within you. That your very beingness, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions stems from the heart center. As a unification, harmonization, and integration of your highest and best comes forth. Know this and be this. Mm-hmm. 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 As we come back through the heart center, being fully grounded in this now moment, having all fractals of the self return back into wholeness with love, being grounded, being here in this now moment. So be it, and so it is. So be it, and so it is. So be it, and so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And on your own time, when you feel ready, open your eyes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It was really so beautiful. And my eyes are streaming tears of remembrance and joy and peace and connectedness. Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for having me here and participating in this co-creation.
Yeah. What a gift. We are so grateful to have had you here, to have felt your light and your love and your unique expression as source here. And we're excited for all the beings that you assist in inviting home into their heart centers, into divine union, into divine grace. Thank you to everybody so much for being here and co-creating this experience together. We're so grateful to have this beautiful community.
Yeah. Thank you all so, so much. Thank you, Stephen, for sharing your light, your gifts, your heart. So, so grateful.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have some beautiful sharings and co-creations to come in the month of April, so stay tuned. Right? You're going into April, right out of check in here a second. So we look forward to connecting more and wishing everybody a beautiful and blessed rest of their day.